Alright, today another video about training programming, and in today's video we're going to talk about linear progression, one of the three progression types that you can use whenever you're writing training programs. And over the next 2 weeks I'm also going to do a full video about step and about wave programming. In today's video though, we're going to zone in on our linear progression, and if you guys haven't watched my last video, the way you actually write programs is that you choose an exercise and a frequency, and then from there you're kind of looking for a way to overload the exercise or make the exercise harder over a period of time. Now the easiest way to do this is to simply add in a small amount of weight every single week, and that is essentially what linear progression actually is. Linear progression means that the weight keeps increasing throughout an entire program in a linear fashion, so by the same increment of weight every single week. This is by far the easiest way to progress on your exercises. It's literally just adding a small amount of weight every single week, and so every single week weight goes up and you're making progress. That's why this is probably the best progression to choose if you are a beginner. You get to PR almost every single week, and if it is actually the first time that you're going to follow a program, it's kind of nice that it's a very simple program where you get to see the results of your training every single week. With that being said, it also works very well for advanced or intermediate trainees, but you have to be a little bit more conscious of actually how to run this properly if you still want to make progress, be it an advanced or an intermediate trainee. Now let's take a look on how to actually run a linear program. So let's say on week 1 we're gonna start off with a 3x10 on 10 kilograms, which is a very easy 3x10, and we're going to add in, let's say, 2.5 kilograms to that weight every single week. Keep in mind that it's very important to always start off a training program on a very easy weight. It makes no sense to actually start off with a 10 rep max on week 1, since that leaves you absolutely no room to improve for the coming weeks. So let's say 3x10 10 kilograms, add in 2.5 kilograms every single week. Week 1 very easy. Week 2 and 3 pretty much like it's getting harder, but you're not really getting to a point where you can no longer finish the 3x10 on that set weight. And then let's say on week 4, that means you're going to be doing 17.5 kilograms, and that is essentially going to be the max you can do for 10 reps. So on set 1 you literally burn yourself out to get those 10 reps in. And then let's say in that session you get the remaining of your volume, so the remaining of that 3x10, doing some lighter weight on set 2 and 3. So on week 4, it's pretty safe to say that we've actually filled out the amount of weight we can do for our sets of 10. But because it actually is a linear program, we're going to increase the weight again next week, because that is essentially how we run a linear program. Now what we can't do is next week do another 3x10 on 20 kilograms, because you can increase your 10 rep max by 2.5 kilograms in one single week. You also don't want to get to the point where you're always training hard every single week, for reasons that I will mention later on in this video. So what you do on a linear program is, as you have filled out your sets of 10, you're gonna drop a rep range. So on week 5 you're gonna once again increase the weight, but you're going to let's say do sets of 8. And what you will find is on week 5, by dropping the rep range but still increasing the weight, week 5 should be a relatively easy workout. And what it actually will allow you to do is to kind of clear out, kind of recover a bit, and kind of give yourself a little bit of an easier workout. And then from there, once again increase the weight by 2.5 kilograms every single week until you once again hit, the maximum amount of weight that you can do for your sets of 8. You can keep doing this for as long as you want, and you can keep increasing the weight all the way until you actually hit doubles and singles, which is kind of where you kind of peak, and then you can go for a very heavy 1 rep max, or you can kind of, let's say, cut it off at sets of 3 or sets of 5, and then go back to your sets of 10 and run the entire process all over again. I would strongly recommend the second option, since I personally don't think that you really should peak unless you have something to peak for that isn't your ego. So if you have a competition going up, definitely go all the way down to doubles and singles. But if we're just kind of getting better at our training, probably cut it off at triples, maybe doubles. I would probably go for triples though, and then simply run the entire process all over again, starting off with your sets of 10 like I just said. Now note that in this example, I actually almost always use straighted and only top and back of it, so at the end of mesocycles, where you kind of fill out how much work you can do for that rep range. Now in the past, I've also run linear progression very effectively using top and back of sets throughout the entire program. If you want to run something like that, you would have one top set where you would increase your weight by about 2.5 kilograms every single week, starting off with your set of 10s and then once again going all the way down to 5s or triples, and then you would have 3 back off sets following that single top set, where you would work in the same rep range or in a different rep range. But you have to keep in mind that those back off sets are always at lower weights, even if you work it in the same rep range, because you only want your density to be high on your top sets, and the back off set is really just about high quality work, getting in more volume at lower weights and so also lower intensity. This is something that was extremely productive for me, and I actually used this type of program to work my way all the way up towards a 2-plate weighted pull-up. And I also talked about that exact program in my weighted pull-up transformation video. If you guys haven't watched that video, I'll link it up in one of the 2 upper corners. What you see throughout a linear program is that even as the weight keeps increasing, you will always give yourself the ebb and flow of training. So it's not the case that you would do an AMRAP on set weight every single week, because that way you would have a hard week every single week, and that simply isn't sustainable unless you're a complete novice. But you will always give yourself an ebb and flow of training. So essentially what you would do is you would always try to fill out how much weight you could do for a rep range, and then towards the end of that mesocycle, you simply drop the rep range and give yourself once again a couple of weeks to clear out until you once again increase the weight all the way up to the point where you kind of max out the amount of weight you can do for set rep range. This is important regardless of what kind of program that you run. On linear programs, wave and also step programs, you will always give yourself the ebb and flow of training. Easy weeks which kind of lead into hard weeks, and then you come back to easy weeks, because once again you cannot progress by training hard every single week. Beginners can, like, they can max out every single week, but once you kind of get to a point where you actually have to run programs to kind of make progress, once you kind of reach the point where you have some strength gains, that is kind of where you have to start giving yourself the ebb and flow of training, and kind of, you know, only train hard on specific workout that you plan out for yourself in advance. And then to finish off today's video, I would like to once again go all the way back to the beginning of the video, where I kind of talked about how this is actually very productive for beginners, because it's very easy, it's very predictable. You can literally PR every single week, and what you will find as a beginner is that the length of your mesocycles, like essentially how long it takes for you to actually fill out a certain rep range, is very long. Like, you can literally for like 6 to 8 weeks keep increasing the weight by 2.5 kilograms every single week within one rep range, since as a beginner you can make stupid progress on literally any kind of setup. So if you're a beginner, definitely worth looking into some linear progression models. And yeah, that being said, that is pretty much all I want to talk about in today's video. So like and subscribe if you guys haven't already, and share the video. Any more video ideas, questions, or advice, leave them below in the comment section. Thank you guys for watching. Follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Latest.